up, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to Don't Say the F Word. We are a pro wrestling and combat sports podcast where we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling. You shouldn't let your friends use it either. Today's episode, a little different. This was designed to be just an interview episode brought to you inside of the Riverside FM High Street studio and in a partnership with Reality Jiu-Jitsu. Reality Jiu-Jitsu, you can find those guys over on Instagram. Anyone listening to us, any of our fans in the UK, Reality Jiu-Jitsu is doing something really fantastic. They are sponsoring kid athletes who are in Jiu-Jitsu, who are training and coming up and learning the martial art of Jiu-Jitsu and competing in grappling competitions. And Reality Jiu-Jitsu is offering sponsorships to minors, to kids who are out there just learning this art, and I think that's a really great thing. I will drop some information on their socials in the description of the video. Maybe I'll do a pop-up here, their logo. But something for me from my time in martial arts I always enjoyed doing was teaching kids and being an instructor of kids groups for submission grappling. And the dream has always been to have like a non-profit gym where kids could take their grappling arts from wrestling in school or for the YMCA, whatever it may be, and be able to branch it out into the world of submission grappling and jiu-jitsu. Not there yet in life, but I'm very happy to see that our friends at Reality Jiu-Jitsu in the UK are helping some kids chase their dreams and accomplish goals and compete in the world of jiu-jitsu and offering sponsorships to those kids, helping them out with some gear and things like that. So if you got a chance, please go check them out. Today's episode is our interview with Austin No Doubt Trout. Austin's a very diverse striker. He is a veteran professional boxer. He's been in there with certainly the who's who in the world of pro boxing. He's fought Canelo Alvarez. He's competed in Golden Gloves, started training at a very young age, and he is making his BKFC debut in February as he welcomes Diego Nightmare Sanchez to the world of bare knuckle fighting. Those of you who know Diego from the MMA world and from the UFC, Diego is a veteran of the UFC. He was one of the key pioneers for the Ultimate Fighter, brought a lot of eyes onto the sport. Diego is moving into the bare knuckle world of combat sports, and Austin No Doubt Trout is going to welcome Diego into that square circle ring in the world of bare knuckle. Austin and I got an opportunity to talk about his journey in pro boxing, his training as he's leading to bare knuckle, and changes he's made to his training techniques and what he's looking at in his fight ahead of Diego. We did get interrupted in the interview though. We are just outside of Cleveland on the night that we got to talk to Austin. We were the victim of a ice storm, and things got kind of sketchy with our internet here in the studio, and we had to cut things short as our connection just wasn't stable. We did get a good opportunity to have a great conversation with an incredible athlete who is about to open up a new chapter in his professional career in the world of bare knuckle fighting. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, here is our interview with Austin No Doubt Trout. What is up, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Don't Say the F Word podcast. We are a pro wrestling and combat sports podcast where we do not use the F word when we talk about professional wrestling. You shouldn't let your friends use it either. Tonight, we are joined by Austin No Doubt Trout, a man who is getting ready to make his BKFC debut in February as he welcomes Diego the Nightmare Sanchez to Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Austin, how are you tonight, man?
I'm blessed. I'm having a great night. Shabbat Shalom to everybody that observes. How you doing, man?
I am doing well. Up here in just outside of Cleveland. Nice. So we are dealing with some cold, some freezing rains, fantastic Ohio weather outside the studio while we're trying to get some things constructed in here. But what can I say? I've been in this my whole life, so complaining about it just it doesn't do nothing. Enjoy what you can enjoy.
You're used to that, and I'm having some lovely weather down here in Houston, so I don't envy you.
I'm sure come July, I don't envy you either with the high temps.
Straight up, and the humidity is ridiculous.
Yeah. So you a Houston native?
No, I'm actually from Las Cruces, New Mexico. I'm a New Mexico native. This is why this fight with me and Diego is pretty big. It's especially for New Mexico. Combat sports, yeah, but for New Mexico, I feel like this is kind of the holy grail a little bit.
Yeah, the battle for New Mexico, then, huh?
Yeah, the Battle of I-25 is they would call it.
So, tell my listeners a little bit about yourself. Now, what is your combat sports background before you're making your BKFC debut?
Yes, I'm a professional world champion, former and future world champion boxer. I held the WBA world title for 2011 to 2013. I fought, the who's who in my weight class for my time. I gave everybody a hell of a run. I'm 36-5 and 2, or no, 36-5 and 1 as a professional with 18 knockouts, and I'm looking to take all that experience and all that grit into the bare knuckle realm and pretty much whoop Diego's ass. We can say the A word, right?
You sure can. You can say any of the words. The only word we don't use is whenever it comes to professional wrestling, we don't use that certain F word.
That certain F word. It's still real.
Yeah, we give all kinds of athletes all their respect because everybody's out there doing their thing.
No doubt. So yeah, I'm gonna whoop Diego's ass with all that experience I have. I know he's got combat experience too, but this ain't a grappling or a wrestling or a jiu-jitsu or even an MMA fight. This is a stand-up bare knuckle fight. So there's different rules. It's a little bit of a hybrid from boxing to MMA, but not much.
Yeah, it's a weird thing for me. Sometimes I'm amazed how captivated I am with bare knuckle boxing.
That's awesome.
Because bare knuckle boxing, that's OG boxing. It didn't start off with gloves, and I find myself as I get older, I coming up early 2000s, heavy into MMA, did a little myself, nothing anywhere close to your level, your talent in combat sports, but it was falling in love with everything being brought together. As I get older, I find myself appreciating the arts being separated a little bit more, and I kind of, in my head, so many things for combat sports, but in my head, I've really gone headfirst into the BKFC because the striking becomes very different. A fundamentalist boxer in BKFC, things are a little different. You learn to block with the gloves, and myself in kickboxing, and there was a change doing MMA. The gloves kind of changed things. Smaller glove. Yeah. The way I protected myself became different. I was more in the pocket of my guard, and with BKFC, it's everything kind of changes, but also in that, I think your field of vision also changes. So if you're an elite striker who knows how to connect, now you have a little bit of an advantage now.
Absolutely, and like you're saying with the size of the gloves, a boxing glove is about almost the size of your head, right? It might be a little bit smaller, so you're dodging targets that were that big. And we're going to go from something that's that big to something that's that big, and that changes things, whereas I was able to see it coming. Now it's faster and it's a little more precise. The clinching is going to be one of the big things for me. They call it dirty boxing, but there's nothing dirty about it. It's all fair. It's all legal striking. It's kind of holding and hitting, and it's an art in itself, which I'm learning because we are making adjustments in camp right now, and I've been training with a lot of MMA guys that have been helping me with just getting me out of my comfort zone, because that's exactly what Diego's going to try and do is make me out of my comfort zone, and I'm already getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So
that's a huge key, is finding that ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable. How old were you whenever you started boxing?
I started when I was 10 years old. Just trying. My mother was a big boxing fan, so when I found out I could box in my hometown, I was like, oh yeah, I gotta be a real man, like my mom said. And I tried other things, but boxing was the one thing that I was consistent at, and I excelled at, so I stuck with it.
Yeah, I mean, getting started at 10, did you go through Golden Gloves?
All
those kinds of things.
Went to the Golden Gloves. I was a 2004 national champion that earned me a spot onto the 2004 Olympic trials. I won the trials, lost the box off, so I became the Olympic alternate, where I got to go to Athens, Greece, to the 2004 Olympics, and I got to see everything. I didn't get to fight though. I was close but no cigar. But nonetheless, it was still a great experience.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy thing to accomplish. Just to be an Olympic alternate that's a huge accomplishment, because so many people getting to that level is a goal that they can never achieve. And a young man from New Mexico going to Athens, Greece as a member of an Olympic team, being an Olympic alternate. I mean, and
as 17 years old too, it was crazy, to say the least.
Yeah.
And it was, what's weird is that because I was at the USA Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs. The boxers and the wrestlers got along right away. It was weird how we had that common kind of. We came from the same background, kind of had the same mentality, and we all kind of got along right away. It was more like the swimmers and some of the karate team that didn't rock with us at all. And we thinking taekwondo, boxing, it's a martial art. They looked at us like we were not a martial art, and I was like, man, honestly, I feel like I could whoop you with all your accolades. I think I could whoop you with my, with my art compared to yours. But nonetheless, no shade to any taekwondoists. I don't want no smoke. Y'all got that.
You don't want to be messing around, being at the convenience store and just catch a spinning roundhouse out of nowhere.
Absolutely not. And I know because one of my buddies, Giambi, he has a taekwondo dojo out here. Heavy with the USA Olympic team, and he's a monster too. And, he looks like he can't do nothing, but he could probably kick you under your face and on top of your head with one swipe.
I tell you what, man, those taekwondo dudes, that skill set, especially if guys got into that at a young age, and then they bring that skill set to a different martial art, and they develop a weird way of striking. And I used to train with a kid, not a kid, he was my age, but we were younger at the time.
Right.
He was a big boy. He was 320, 330 at the time, and he was a black belt in taekwondo before he came to our gym.
Yeah.
And first time I seen him, I'm like, this is a big dude. Like, all right, he's gonna have some power, but I'm holding the pads for people. And he uncorked a kick on the pad. I'm like, holy shit, what was that? And I came back over to him, and I'm like, man, this dude, maybe he was just anxious, and he just really uncorked something and just didn't know what he was doing. He did it again. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have you come over here. We're gonna have a conversation. Like, what did you do before you came to this gym? He's like, nothing. I'm like, man, there's no way you're that size and your hips, you're able to uncork something. Like, what'd you do before you came? No, nothing. I'm like, come on, man, don't lie to me. I'm a taekwondo black belt. I'm like, son of a that's sneaky. But man, his boxing, taekwondo guys, it's a different type of striking. He learned how to kickbox, and he learned fundamentals of just traditional boxing from our coach. His snap at the end of all of his punches was unexpected from a guy his size. You would expect kind of that lumbering, it connects and it hits, there's impact, but it doesn't pop. And everything he threw snapped like he was 165 pounds. And he would just light your ass up. Next thing you know, Tiny hit you 7 times. Like, man, I don't want to spar with Tiny no more. Like, it ain't fun. Like, but it's a different element.
It's all different. There's a big difference in all of it. And even in BKFC compared to boxing, it's different. There's adjustments that as a boxer that I need to make, just like there's adjustments that as a predominantly wrestler, Diego's gonna have to make. And there's strengths that he could take from his wrestling that he could bring into the BKFC that I don't necessarily have. So looking at just styles make fights. I love those old kung fu movies where they have like tournaments of whose style is the greatest style, and they all fight using their selected style. I love that. That's what's kind of going on right now.
Yeah, it's always great to see guys who kind of have a different fundamental background, because those instincts of you coming up through boxing, you always had those guys in the gym who your sparring sessions became almost fighting a mirror, because you know the same things. Your response becomes the same, and it almost becomes, not that it's telegraphed, it's just that you know each other so well because your education was the same.
Yeah.
So 2 + 2 is 4, but so is 3 + 1. But you guys learn 2 + 2 together.
That's right.
So whenever you get across the ring or the cage or whatever it may be from someone who learned how to get the 4 a different way, now you're solving those equations differently, and it becomes a whole different problem.
Yeah.
And you're right. It always makes things exciting.
I'm gonna use that, man. 2 + 2 is 4, but so is 3 + 1. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm still in that one.
Right? Like, it's one of those things where I can't read. I really wish I remembered where I stole it from. I wish it was mine originally, but I know I got it from somebody.
I'm gonna try and remember that I stole it from you. I'll try and remember. Since you don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was. It was somebody, but I know I'm not smart enough to have just thought of that on my own.
Nah.
But yeah, it's always like I'd have training partners in the gym that I work with all the time, and we would become those things where you know each other's go-tos, you know the counter to that, and then you get some dude who it's his first week there, and you've never interacted with him in the ring, you've never touched gloves with the guy, and all of a sudden you're getting tagged by this guy, and it's his third weekend, he's feeling real cocky, like, man, I just got to figure out his patterns. He's different. It's a different thing. As you look at the situation, as you look at the BKFC ring, that, again, it's a different thing. You have a round ring, and your starting point is very different. A couple weeks ago, Jeremy Pitbull Smith was on the show with me, and we were talking about, the starting points and how, it's even and you guys are right there together. And then Jacoby Lawry came on, and he talked a little bit about that being right there at that line where it's dead middle of the ring. It's not, you're not starting in your corners, you're not starting at the ends, and you can feel each other out as you approach and try and figure out that timing in that space. Those lines are about 3 feet away from each other, dead center of that ring. Is that something you're factoring into the training camp of you're starting at that go point where you can touch it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just today, me and a couple of guys, Jacob Berry and Colton England, we were doing some drilling, some sparring basically, and we started right in the middle. We toed the line. It's like, all right, 10 seconds, ready, go. And so yeah, we're doing things to get used to it. Again, we're not taking Diego lightly. We're not taking this whole league lightly. We're going to do our due diligence to make sure that we are well prepared, conditioned knuckles, conditioned hands, conditioned chin. We're doing a lot of sticky hands, learning some sticky hands, things like that, and learning a lot of little, not necessarily grappling, but grappling tricks, to kind of control the head, things like that, being able to control. And then there's a lot of things in boxing that I wouldn't get away with if it was an MMA fight, because they could just grab your legs from under you. But since it's not an MMA fight, me dropping my hips, getting lower, it helps me come up with some good uppercuts, things like that. So we're gonna keep some things from boxing, obviously, keep a lot of things from boxing, but we're gonna add to it some grappling elements, a little bit of MMA elements. I mean, even some jiu-jitsu elements.
Yeah, I'm rereading for the upteenth time The Way of the Five Rings, and just this morning I was hitting the part of the stickiness, and you talk about the sticky hands, and I was reading that along with the attacking the body portion of The Way of the Five Rings, and it got me thinking about kind of Jeremy Pitbull Smith style, thinking a little bit about Mike Tyson. And the way those guys, those power guys, come in, and it's real tight, and they get in, they work the body. I'm like, man, in BKFC, the way you have the opportunity to kind of bully a little bit more as opposed to boxing or traditional kickboxing, and you can kind of work for that one-handed dirty boxing plum.
Yeah.
That stickiness of, you could really get in there, kind of get your head into a guy's chest and just work the body. Especially if you get them backed up to those ropes, because those ropes don't give. That's a straight steel rope.
Yeah,
and there's no opportunity for rope-a-dope, so you get a guy backed in there, you're essentially backed him into a UFC cage. He's not getting away if you can get in there and stick him. And as I was reading, these elements apply so much to BKFC. As I think about talking, this is you get in there, you get stuck to the guy, and that's where these BKFC fights become the most beautiful of brawls, because it's highly skilled strikers and something that looks like a just all-out brawl. But these guys are, it's hitting your marks and making that connection. And I think your level of striking is gonna play so well into BKFC.
Thank you. I do too. When it first came out, I remember I was watching those fights. I was like, man, I would do that. Oh, I would do that. And then, I got the call from Nelson Flores, it was years later. He's like, would you do it? Yes, I would do it. Man, who, how much, all the other stuff. But it was like, yes, let's do it. So I'm very excited to do this, man. And I can't thank you enough for having me on here.
Oh, man, I appreciate you taking the time to be on. I look at BKFC and I talk to some of my friends who were my friends back whenever I was fighting. And you're talking, I was early 2000s in MMA. And it was educating people on what the UFC was, because people didn't know.
That's right. That's when it was just starting too, right?
Yeah, whenever I got started in Ohio, we weren't even sanctioned. MMA wasn't sanctioned, so the fights were random things popping up or doing. I trained in, the style was shoot fighting under Mike Danko, who trained under Bart Vale, who trained under Fujiwara. So it was a long lineage of martial artists.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of times we were just. It was just in the gym. It was, you couldn't go anywhere and compete. So it was just, okay, these guys are here. You've been here before. You're new, so you're going to go with him. You have no experience, but you think you're tough. So yeah. And it was just very not regulated well. And even some things I did up in Michigan weren't through the athletic commission, and a lot of things that were weird for me with once they sanctioned it and you had amateur MMA. For me, I was a little bugged out on the idea that, well, I'm fighting and I can't be paid now, but everybody else can make money.
Yeah,
I got a little hung up on that, and I got a little older, and things got a little different for me. But I look at it, I'm kind of happy BKFC wasn't there for me, because I would have done it, and I would have got lit up by elite strikers.
Yeah, you don't know that, man.
Yeah, it's true. Maybe I'm being too humble, but I'm like, man, I definitely would have looked at it and been like, I got to at least do it once.
Yeah.
And you talked about training your knuckles a little bit and hardening that up. I talked to Jacoby Lowry, and he talked about, he felt a lot of stability when they wrapped his hands in his first fight. He felt like it was as stable as any other fight he'd ever been in. And I feel like, that lack of the glove, like one of my buddies who, he's a big UFC fan now, wasn't back in the day, he looks at BKFC and thinks, you guys doing it are crazy, because you feel like you're less protected. And I actually think they might be better protected against concussions, because you can't hit quite as hard without a glove.
No.
I've had my hand taped and wrapped pretty good with a 4-ounce MMA glove. I'm like, I bet I could hit a cinder block and be okay.
Yeah.
And I've been playing around and been, tagging a tree with nothing. I'm like, I'm not going to do this anymore. This shit hurts.
It does. No, but that's a great point you put up. And also, I mean, the glove ends up causing more blunt force trauma, whereas the bare knuckle, it only causes more soft tissue damage. It's not as concussive as a glove. It kind of really gets to the point. A lot of people just get knocked out. They don't just sit there and take a bunch of shots and get beat up. They usually just go down, and saves them from the second or third, fourth, fifth strike. So, I mean, is it safer? Is it not? I like to think so, because I'm about to do it. So I'll make the cause that it's safe. It's safe enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's combat sports. It's only as safe as it can possibly.
Exactly. Considering it's safe.
Yeah.
But this is another truth for me, is that I've only broken my hand inside a glove. I've never broken my hand punching outside of a glove. And I think that's because when my hand is in a glove and I have all those wraps, I don't close my hand all the way. In a glove, your hand's a little bit open, or it's kind of open like this, and I end up punching with the open hand. And I've broken my hand doing that. But training without gloves, and every time I've had to throw my hands without gloves on, I've never hurt them. And I think it's because of the solid fist that I do make when I don't have a hand in the glove.
Yeah, in trying to talk to people about BKFC and trying to educate friends of mine or anyone who's willing to listen to me ramble on about things I enjoy, I always talk about Boss Root, and whenever Boss talks about whenever he was in Pancrase, and Pancrase was all palm strikes, and whenever I did competitive shoot fighting, Bart did the rule of it was palm strikes on the ground, you couldn't close fist. And whenever Boss moved into the UFC, he still threw a lot of those palm strikes because he said, he felt like a closed fist wasn't as good of a weapon as the palm. And I use it as my repertoire for people whenever they talk about like using gloves and MMA is different because they got the gloves, it's better protection. Like, guys can still palm strike the shit out of you.
Yeah, and that hurts.
And like the heel of your palm, is dense.
Yeah,
like,
it hurts.
Yeah, like, I think I'd rather get hit with a closed fist.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
For real.
They make some of those fights with Boss, like he would hit people with a hammer fist standing up. It's like I'd rather take the knuckle. Like I don't want that to happen to my face.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. For sure.
How many fights are you signed on for with BKFC right now?
Right now we just have this one fight. I hope to get a multi-fight deal. We'll see how this goes. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be fireworks. It's going to be exciting. I want it to be fight of the night, fight of the year, without me having a hard fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that it's gonna sound crazy to say it. I think it's a fortunate thing that all the stars aligned for you. Yeah. You and Diego battle for New Mexico. In New Mexico, you're gonna it's debut for BKFC for both of you. Diego's coming in, going to bring different eyes to the sport, but it's also going to bring different eyes to you. Yep. And it's going to expose a lot of people to your talent, your skill level, and what you can do in there. And I don't think you need to worry too much about that multi-fight deal. I think that's going to come because I think a lot of people are going to see what you and Diego do and the picture that you guys are able to paint inside of that ring and be fans of yours, regardless of who they came to see. They're not going to leave thinking anything less of what you guys do because the two of you guys together, I think that styles, that contrast of styles and backgrounds, it's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, it's going to be a great show. Yeah, I thank you for that, man. You know your stuff.
I try, man. It's my nerddoms. I find a thing that interests me, and I just go
in. That's
yeah. My wife, I think I probably drive my wife nuts with it.
I'm kind of the same way, and I drive my wife crazy because I get a little obsessed with a few things. I don't leave my obsessions; I just get new ones. And she's like, "What is it now?" I'm like, "Well, I'm still looking into this stuff. If you want to learn about it, I'll tell you. I'll tell you all about it."
Yeah, it's that habitual learner. Find a little thing that just sparks a little bit of interest. Like, I'm going to go right down that rabbit hole. I'm going to be the subject matter expert because I want to know everything and have everything I could possibly have to teach me more about it.
Yeah.
And then I got to learn a new thing now. I don't know if it's ADHD. I'm pretty sure it is. Probably need to be medicated, but I'd rather just love it.
Yeah, just embrace it. Embrace it.